Hi, my name is Vincent LaBarbera. Welcome to our podcast, Mulberry Street Memories, growing up in Little Italy during the 40s, 50s, and 60s. This is one of the most famous play streets in New York City, Mulberry Street, between Prince Street and Houston Street. We are broadcasting from St. Patrick's Rectory, located at 263 Mulberry Street. It is across the street from Old St. Patrick's Church, now a basilica. I will be joined by Monsignor Donald Sukarno, who was at St. Patrick's Church. The two of us contributed to the book Meatballs and Stickball, edited by our good friend Richard Ronaldo. Welcome to Mulberry Street Memories, Episode 4. My God, how fast time flies. Today we have with us John Bavona, myself, Vincent LaBarbera, and of course our technical advisor, Hunter Savarini. So today we're going to talk about something that people have been asking me about for a while, the music. Where did that music come from that you start the program and end the program? The music is actually from a family member, Enrico Granafe. Enrico Granafe is a family member that plays the harmonica, and he studied under Toots Thielsman. Now, Toots Thielsman became very, very popular because he did the harmonica playing for Midnight Cowboy, the movie that won the Academy Award for Best Movie 1969. And that starred John Voight as Joe Buck and Dustin Hoffman as Ratso Rizzo. And Enrico studied under him. He's got a few albums out, and we picked this particular song because it's from his first album, and it's called Starlight. Nothing But the Truth is the name of the album, and Starlight is the name of the tune. And why it became so popular is because the movie was wonderful. It was the first, Midnight Cowboy was the first X-rated movie to win the Academy Award as Best Movie. And I remember the famous line that really didn't belong in the movie, it was spontaneous, was when Dustin Hoffman as Ratso Rizzo walking with John Voight, who was Joe Buck, and all of a sudden he stopped Ratso, and all of a sudden a car came out of nowhere, a cab, and almost ran over him. He banged on the hood and he said, "Hey, I'm walking here. That was a spontaneous thing that they did. It became the wonderful telltale best line of the movie because the cab actually came on the set and almost ran him over. He was banging on the hood of the car. It was a terrific thing to know. But anyway, so that's where the music comes from. He studied under Toots Thielsman from Belgium, and he is a family member, and I just wanted to call it to everybody's attention. Now, here's where we're going to get to the best part of this entire conversation. The stickball games at Mulberry Street, on Mulberry Street. That was probably the most impressive thing I recall growing up in Little Italy every Sunday, or the games that were played. It was outstanding because the games were a thing to watch. And as Pete Hamill said, stickball was the greatest game ever invented by New Yorkers. And that's true, and it was echoed by Robert Sylvester. And the games, Mulberry Street versus Holy Rosary, you had to be there to see what was going on. First of all, it was played for a lot of money. There was the older guys, led by Eddie Morano, God bless him. And also, Holy Rosary was led by Louis Russo. Now, there were a lot of great players at that game, and some of the members of the games, the teams, I recall there was Vinny Head Curatola, who was third base. He was a tremendous player, and he was also, he tried out for the Giants and the Giants liked him, but he didn't want to. He wanted to come back to the neighborhood. He didn't want to play baseball. Well, he was with the New York Giants farm team for a while, but he came back and he'd rather be in the neighborhood. And then there was Jimmy Twins Contino, Tiger Loria, Nunzi Bonvisa, my friend, Gary Lapani, the boy wonder, Joe Russo when he was around, Joe Black, a.k.a., and then there was a guy named Sylvie and Blackie Messina. So
What about the cop?
well, he played, George the Cop played, but the regular lineup, according to Eddie in the book, Meatballs and Stickball, was the usual lineup that they had. And it was a terrific game. And also, you had what I really enjoyed the games because of the Holy Rosary team, where they were from 117th Street and Pleasant Avenue. And I said before, Louis Russo was the star of the team, and he hit the tank during a game. That was the only one, according to Eddie, that hit the famous tank in the Puck building that had to be about 500 feet above, and it was automatic home run. And he was the only one during a big game that would hit the tank. But they had some interesting characters, and if you notice, a lot of them had nicknames. Like Albie Piero was named Albaduce. Then they had a guy named Snooky. Then they had a guy named Scutchy. Then J.R., Mikey Lentini, Sonny Nuts, Harpo. And there was a guy that always came with them named Ouija. Now, Ouija was an interesting guy because at the Copacabana, when they had entertainment and they had big name people performing, he used to work the door. We used to see him there all the time. And I got to tell you these games, some of them, they were as much as 18,000 a game. So you could imagine the crowds and seeing games, etc. And also, there were also some of the games on Mulberry Street were with the Mulberry Street team and the Puerto Ricans from East Harlem. And they were led by a guy named Candido, who his name is nicknamed Candy. And there was another guy named Jibby who had a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds. So you see, stickball was our pastime, and I couldn't say more about these games because you had to be there. It was just amazing. And the games ended, and it was double headers, sometimes triple headers, and everybody on Sunday. Now, the interesting thing about it was on Mulberry Street between Prince and Houston Street, and the cars, they knew the people had parked their cars, that all the cars had to be removed. And there were no trees on Mulberry Street at the time, not the way they are now. So it was all vacant because you had to have room from the corner of Prince Street down to Houston Street on Mulberry Street. And a lot of monies were played. There was a lot of games. And then they used to go once in a while to Holy Rosary on Pleasant Avenue on 117th Street and play. But that was the highlight of stickball that we all knew, and you had to, as I said before, enjoyed, and we couldn't have a better time, John. I mean,
for sure.
watching.
I think it was something that everybody was involved in it one way or another, even if you were standing, on the side watching the games, which pretty much is what I did since I didn't play so well. But it was that kind of a situation. But even before those games, where we played people from another,
Other
place.
locations, yes.
Yeah.
Harlem.
You had games that were done on Elizabeth Street between Houston and Bleecker and Mott and Houston and Bleecker. And you had some great players there then who actually were a little older by the time we were doing all the other.
Yeah, early 60s, this started. Yeah.
But I always think of one thing that, especially with the Puerto Rican guys, there was never a fight, never. And they argued many times, but they knew that if you had a fight, there'd never be these games.
Never.
And it shows you one of the things with regard, to baseball and to this. It was very important.
Oh yeah, I think at this point, first of all, they had respect for each other, and the fact that, and we'll go on to both of them on later on, but two of them made the Stickball Hall of Fame. Eddie Morano, who was our mentor, and I don't know where we would be in this world, okay, growing up, if it wasn't for Eddie and our participation in sports. And he was the catalyst, and he helped groom us. And I got to tell you something, nobody like him. And as a player, Joe Russo said he probably hit about 800, his batting average on Mulberry Street. He never missed. I think once in his hot life, he swung and missed once, because you get one try, one swing, and that was the bottom line. And of course, Eddie and Louis Russo. Russo is the most dangerous hitter, Eddie said, that he's ever played against. And the guy was an awesome guy, and he was a sweet guy and left-handed. And I got to know him later on in life and got friendly with him. We'll go on to another episode of what we did for Eddie and for Louis Russo going forward. But stickball was the game of games, and even although Willie Mays never played on Mulberry Street, he participated in stickball in Harlem all the time when he had time. And there's a lot of pictures of him swinging a stickball bat, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing else I could say except the sport was the sport, and we couldn't wait to see all these guys, these older guys play, and boy, were they good. And you really had to be good for playing for Eddie, because Eddie was the captain of the team, and he set the lineups up, and boy, oh boy, there was nobody like him, nobody ever will be like him, and thank God, because if it wasn't for sports, I don't know what half of the people would be doing. At least it got us on the right track because we participated. And Eddie was the guy, and we all looked up to him. And we couldn't wait to see him open up the keys at the youth center for the basketball or play wiffle ball. And he's the only one that had the keys, and meet us at 8 o'clock in the morning. We were there at 7:30, so ready to go into the youth center, which was built in 1954. And those are memories that'll last forever, John.
Oh, absolutely. And Eddie was a great human being. He's a man you could count on for a lot of things. And he's missed.
Oh, yeah. He passed away about 10 years ago, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're all missed. Louis gone also. They're missed, but they're always remembered. We always bring up their names to people, and there's a plaque that we have in front of the youth center, and that's in front of the rectory, dedicated to Eddie Morano, called Play Street. And you see him swinging the bat and the ball, and a photo just looks just like him. Okay, and people remark about who's this guy with the swinging the bat with the ball. And I said Eddie Morano, and Eddie. There's not what could I say about Eddie?
I'll tell you one thing you could say. If he had had an education, whatever, he could be a CEO of any company. He really was a brilliant guy.
Yeah, he did everything that he worked for Abasco for most of his life. And he used to hire guys from the neighborhood all the time. I mean, he was always into, and his life was, sports. Every sport, Eddie was involved. And I know, John, that you had football tickets with him.
Yes.
At Yankee Stadium, I believe.
Yankee Stadium, the Giants for about 10 years. And we used to get our meatballs, sandwiches, and go up to the Yankee Stadium to see the games. We had tickets way up on top, but it was on the 40-yard line. So that was, it was far up, but you could see everything. It was great, and and I had it was something to go, to be with him a lot, and he had this thing to me that he would always say, "Do the right thing, do the right thing." That was it for him, and he did the right things.
Yeah, but every Sunday he was going somewhere. If you
Yep.
want to meet him, he was on his way to some game, someplace. I used to go to Jersey with him and see basketball games with semi-pro players. I mean, he knew exactly where to go, what time, and he just was so zeroed in on sports. And then he coached. What did he coach? He coached. What did he coach? Football?
No,
Basketball?
no. What was it?
Later-
Girls?
Was it girls?
Yeah, the big ball.
Bowling?
No.
Softball.
Softball.
Oh, okay. I
Right.
know he was participating in
Right,
everything after his career.
Yeah.
But he did say it was not the same. Playing stickball, okay, he played until, many years.
Many years.
Many years.
Yeah.
But he said when it was over, the other sports were not the same.
Yeah.
Because stickball was his pride and joy. And I got to tell you something. He was the Pete Rose of stickball. That's the only thing I could tell
Yeah,
you.
right. Exactly.
And boy, he was vocal. When he was zeroed in, forget it. This guy, and he used to, we couldn't wait to see him. And then he used to write the lineups, who was going to play that Sunday,
Yeah.
and chalk. And we have copies of that lineup on occasion. So it's just a wonderful thing for Eddie. So I just wanted you to know, Eddie, if you're up there and you're playing ball with whoever, maybe you're playing a ball with any of your friends that grew up with you and played with you, you're the guy. So God bless him. And what else can I say?
I have one
Story, please.
Yeah, it's not too long. So I was not a good player, stickball. And one Sunday, they decided, the guys, they were there. I don't know if the people they were supposed to play against came, but they didn't come. And they decided to, pick up guys and, get two sets of players. So Eddie says, I just happened to be there, So he said, hey, John, he said, you're going to play. I said, Eddie, please. My days were long over before. They weren't so good. He said, you're going to play. I said, oh, all right. He said, so I said, where am I going to play? He said, you're going to play third base. I said, are you crazy? I said, those balls will come at me. I said, I'll get them knocked in my head. He said, you're doing it. He said, I'm in second base. He said, don't worry about anything. And he said, I'm going to show you why you never were able to hit the ball. And for about 15 minutes, he had me, he's doing it how I should do it. Throwing it up, not bouncing it. So the game came. I hit every time I got up, every time. And third base, even the balls that were hit to me, fortunately, not too many, but I didn't make any
Errors.
Errors, yes. So when the game was over, we won. They were going to play another game. And I thought to myself, I said, you know what? That was great. I'm going to go. And one of the guys from the team came over. I can't remember who it was, but he said, John, where are you going? You got to be, you got to play. You were, so good with all of this. And I thought to myself, I'm going to leave on top.
Oh, boy.
And that's the last time I ever picked up a stickball bat.
Oh, that was pretty good, John. I mean, the fact that you did that, you were 5 for 5.
I was 5 for 5.
My goodness, what else can I say?
Oh, God.
I have to mention also, because he's a dear friend of ours, okay, that Joe Russo, Joe Black, did hit the tank, not in the big games, but he did with the smaller teams, the lower teams, and he did hit the tank, which was unbelievable, above the puck building. That was like the holy grail of where we played. And he hit the tank. And also, Gary Lapani, was known to hit Houston Street. Now that's an unbelievable job. Not during the big games, but with other teams that he played against when he was, because the big games with Holy Rosary and Mulberry Street were the best of all the players. You had to be the best player at your position to play for Eddie, and the same with Holy Rosary, because those guys were really good. I mean, these guys can hit skippers, home runs, line drives, and field. And this is without a glove. There was no gloves in stickball. So I had to mention those two things, John. And there was other games played on Mulberry Street. There was stoop ball was played, stoop ball and
kick the
can. Every other game you can. Our neighborhood, we played every game possible. Ringalivio, oh my Lord. What's his name? Johnny on the Pony. Oh my God! I remember one time we were playing in the schoolyard, and we had a big guy with us who also played sports, Michael Lorino. And let me tell you, he had to jump, and you had to get the horse. You had to jump on we had a horse type thing that we had, and we were all backs for somebody jumping.
Johnny on the Pony.
And Johnny on the Pony. And Michael Areno was a big guy, about 240 pounds. And he landed on you, he could crush you to death. Okay. And he almost killed somebody when he jumped when we were having those games. But there was a lot of fun. And we kept ourselves going with all the games that we did. And there was always something going on with sports. And that was an enjoyable part of our life. I can't imagine if we didn't participate in sports, what would our life be at this point? It's just remarkable. And Eddie's the guy. He started it all, and he's the one that continued. And he always talked to the guys. And boy, if you played for Eddie, you better be good. And I'll tell you something. He would rip into you if you were screwing up or not playing as well as you can. He was vocal. He took this game so seriously. All the sports he played, he gave 150% in every sport. But the stickball was his number one sport. He played everything else, but stickball was his number one sport. So, and that's wonderful, John, because people heard about these games and heard about what we've done. Okay, but to see it was believing. And now they have pictures of some players hitting the ball from time to time on the internet that played with us and played, and some of our guys from the neighborhood. So we have pictures, available for people to see, because somebody took pictures of all of us, swinging the bat one way or another. And we have about 10 or 15 around, so it's nice to see. But it's in the 60s. I think that was the time. John,
we're before that.
That was before the 50s.
What about the fact that we got these different kinds of things to play with? Kick the can. We made it up. People in our era, and a number of things, and we didn't have things like they have today. And we had to have it up here, we had to have it.
We created those
we
games.
created, exactly. What about the Jets?
Oh yeah, wow. That was a team.
Ahead,
we were 12 years old.
12 years old.
And we formed a stickball team. Guys, myself, John, my God, there had to be Jerry Sacusa, Nicky Boletto,
yep.
and a few others, Peter Caterina, but we had the Jets, and we had the tops to the Jets. We had a uniform, the top, and had Jets. And we were so happy and proud to be part of that, and it was a pretty, if I remember, it was what, blue and, was it yellow? I don't remember.
I forget.
I don't remember it, but we had to have somebody sew the Jets.
Yes.
You had to have somebody in the family. My grandmother sewed it for me, and my granddad had to sew it, You know, we bought the tops, the sweatshirts, but they had to sew the jets on it, and it took a little time, but we got it done. But the best and the most interesting story about this that John will tell you, the best player on that team was not a guy, it was a girl. JoJo Rini, Josephine Rini. She was the best hitter on the team.
Yep.
I mean, could you imagine? Yeah. That was it. She was the leading player on our team. And we had a girl, and I tell you, she can field, throw, but she can hit. And boy, she hit a lot of shots. I couldn't believe it at that time.
What was your number?
Oh God, my number, I think, my guess is going to be, I seem to recall number 6. I'm not sure, but you know something, it had to be something, low.
I was 11.
Okay, right.
After Bobby Brown of the
That's
Yankees.
right, Frank D'Angelo played.
Right.
That's right, we called him Bobby Brown. It was a nickname for a guy that played for the Yankees.
I did it because of Bobby Brown on the Yankees.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah.
He was my favorite player.
Oh, Bobby Brown. Well, yeah, exactly. But that was his nickname.
Yeah.
Bobby
Right,
Brown. Bobby Brown was his nickname. Frank D'Angelo.
Right.
My God, he lived on the Bowery.
Right.
When they used to, now the Bowery is a place that's unbelievable now, tourists, everything. But the Bowery in our neighborhood was, Bowery bums and derelicts and people that lived on the Bowery. We got hysterical laughing because, he used to say, "Where do you live? 242 Bowery," whatever it was, okay? And people got hysterical. But that was the world we lived in. And, we can never forget that, John. That's for sure.
That's for sure. You're right.
So, anything else before we go into memoirs?
No, I think that was pretty good.
That was good, John. To be continued, John. We have so many stories. As long as our mind is working, we could spit them all out because there's 100, I'd say maybe 500 more stories to tell.
Easily.
We haven't even tapped on what we're going to do.
Right.
Well, take care and stay well, and hope to see you soon.
Take care, everybody.
God bless.
It's funny, but Sinatra, interestingly, he always, his connection with the mobsters, whatever, but he had a very deep connection. When he was performing in New York, after his shows at night, he would go to La Maganette a lot of times for dinner. And one time he was at the Radio City. He'd been performing right toward the end of his career. And he was there for dinner with this guy. His name was Louis Dome. He was a mob guy.
He owned separate tables, John.
He owned separate tables, right. And Louis used to hang out in La Maganette a lot. Anyway, so this time Sinatra was there. They always used to eat downstairs away from everybody. Well, it was about like 2, 3 in the morning, and it was a Saturday night. And so he came up, and the owner was my friend Frank Caridi. They asked him, "Would you like us to clear everybody out?" So he wanted to have a drink at the bar, Sinatra. So he said, no. He said, "Just lock the door. Who's ever there, let them stay." He went up. There was a piano player there. They had a piano player, and near the bar, and he used to sing. Sinatra went up, and for 2 hours, he sang. He sang every song, and everything was on the house. He bought everybody, a drink and paid for their tabs. And he sang. The piano player was like in seventh heaven. He's now accompanying Frank Sinatra. But he used to go in there with this guy Louis Dome. They were very close, and Louis Dome was like Vinny said, he owned separate tables, a couple of other things. He was a Shylock, whatever.
A wise guy.
Yeah, he was a made guy.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's an interesting story, John, with Frank.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I told you this, but I was very good friends with one of his secretaries. Did I tell you the story about that?
Tell it again.
No.
Well, there was a place uptown that he used to hang out at called Jilly's. And Jilly was a very good friend of his. Eventually, Jilly wound up with him and had closed the bar. It was a bar, basically. And then a few years later, a couple of guys reopened it. And a friend of ours, Andy Albanese, he got invited to the party, and he said, come along with me. He said, we're going to go to this party. So I went with him. It was late at night, and so we sit down at a table eating, and there's a woman next to me, older woman, and we start talking one thing and another. Nice lady, and toward the end of the conversation, she says to me, she says, do you like Frank Sinatra? I said, sure. I said, absolutely. So he was performing at the time at what was called the Garden State, venue.
Arts Center.
Garden State, yeah, which is now something else, called something else. Anyway, I said, yeah. She said, well, do you have a card? She said, give it to me. She said, I'll send you some tickets. So I said, yeah, all right. I give her the card. So I didn't really think much of it. I thought, who knows? The next day, I'm in the office. My receptionist calls. She says, John, she said, it's Mr. Sinatra's office on the phone. I said, so, okay. So I get on the phone, and she says, hi, John, it's Laverne. Her name is Laverne Dunton. And she was, he had 2 secretaries, and she was one of them. She said, how many tickets would you like to the performance? I said, well, I'm kind of fumfering now. I don't know what the hell to say. I don't know how much, whatever. So I said, well, yeah, I said, sure. I said, I'd like a couple. She said, I'm going to send you 8 tickets. I said, well, how much? She said, oh, no, don't be silly. She said, these are on me. She sends me 8 tickets.
Wow.
We went, there were 8 of us. So we sat in the second row, right behind his wife. Father Gigante was there.
Wow.
And she and I became really good friends over the years. She was she'd been an orphan. She was married when she was 16. She had 3 kids, divorced by the time she was like 22. She was from California. She had 3 grandchildren, and she came to Christmas Eve dinner with us once at the house. In any case, one day she calls me.
Yes, I'll mention.
She was in New York. She said, I'm going to see Sweeney Todd tonight with Mrs. Sinatra and, whatever, a couple of people. She said, I would really like you to come. She said, because we're going to go back to Jilly's after. She said, Mr. Sinatra may come and have dinner with us, later, because he was performing again. And so I was able to go. I went, and it was, I forget the other people. It was the Sinatra's wife. And anyway, we went back to Jilly's, and after a while, he came, and so he sat next to me, and he was very quiet, to say just hello, whatever. And then Laverne said to him that, I was from Mott Street in Little Italy, whatever. And Joe, he said, I meant to tell you the last time, he said to me, oh, he said, yeah, he said, really? He started talking about where he grew up. And he said, you know a guy by the name of, they call him Tommy Beans? I said, well, I really know. I said, I know who he is. I said, but I don't know him. So, Joe, what you said that, the other thing that he really loved the guy. He started talking about him. And then once he knew I was from the neighborhood, he kind of he got very nice. He was very nice. So anyway, that was my story. But Laverne, she used to send me tickets every time he performed, no matter where it was in the country. And then I had a lot of clients all over, so I would send them tickets, all for nothing. And what happened was, Sinatra was very generous with his people who worked for him. And with Laverne and Dorothy, the other secretary, he would give them, when he made a contract to perform, he would, part of the contract would be that he'd get so many tickets that belonged to him for free, He would give them to his people to sell if they wanted, so he'd give her, a couple of hundred tickets, Dorothy, a couple of hundred tickets, and they could do with them what they wanted. They could sell them. She did very well, this lady, with the tickets. But she used to send me tickets until he completely retired. She was with them. A wonderful, lovely lady. And so I was, I got to see a lot of his concerts, like the last 15 years of his life. But anyhow, that was my story about Sinatra and Tommy Beans. So he
Great
really
story.
liked the guy.
Hey, John, just one quick question about Jilly. Okay, Jilly Rizzo was a good friend of Donna's uncle, and what he did was he got an autograph from Frank Sinatra to Donna. Okay, and here it is. All right, this is I don't know if anybody could see it, but this is an authentic Frank Sinatra autograph from Jilly Rizzo to Donna from Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, you know what? I have one on an album that he, when my son was born, because that's about the time I met him. Laverne, he had a Sinatra signed an album. I can't think of the name of the album now. I have it, but it was a later one of his, and he signed it to Vincent. Welcome to the world. See you in the year 2000. Frank. We're like that, on the cover of the album. Anyway, so she was, as I say, a very nice lady, and certainly, was very generous with those tickets. Every time she would ask me, "How many do you want?" I said, "Return, just send a few, whatever."
That's a nice story, John.
Yeah, she was good. And Joe, when we went to, remember when we went to Venice, Joe?
Yeah.
Joe?
So the first time we went to Venice. So it was, she gave me, for my wife and I, round trip first class tickets because she had opened a travel agency at this point. At the time it was on Pan Am. She just was a great lady. And really.
Oh, Sinatra had died by that time, Johnny.
Yeah, he died.
No, he was still alive.
1999. He died in 1999.
He died in 99. Joe, that was 1980.
No, it was in the 90s.
No,
We went to Venice.
no, my son was still under treatment. I remember that. It was the first time we went. The very first time you stayed on the.
Oh, we went on the island.
Yeah, that was the first time. That was like 80, 84. Yeah, I think
Wow.
84 or 85. Yeah, that's what it was.
JB, I seen Frank Sinatra once. Not when he was going up, when he was going down. He was appearing at Atlantic City, and they were getting $200 a ticket from Atlantic City. But I never went to see him there. But me and my wife went out to Las Vegas. We were at the Mirage or the, what's the other one with the, not the Venetian. There was, well, it was probably the Mirage or the one next to it. One had the boat, Treasure Island. We were in the Treasure Island on Mirage. We were staying there. And Frank Sinatra was down at the Desert Inn. And the paper said $50 a ticket. I said, wow, I'm going to go. I said, that's a bargain to see him. So I went the day before. I went down and got 2 tickets. And he was at the Desert Inn. So I told my wife, it's probably going to be, and it was maitre d' seating. So I told my wife, I'm only giving this guy $50. I'm not giving him a nickel more. $50 for the 2 of us for maitre d' seating. That I had it in my mind already. I was looking to argue with the guy, but I give the guy $50. We go down there to sit down, and we're about 30 feet away, 25 feet, 30 feet away from the stage. Who's sitting behind us is his wife. What's her name? Barbara Marx.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a bet. I guess she didn't tip the guy enough, but we about 25 feet away. Yeah, but I mean, he was stumbling around. He was reading off the teleprompter that was by on the stage.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah.
That was sad. The last few years, he was
that's
not.
the only time I seen him. I never seen him when he was like in Las Vegas with the Rat Packs, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Well, that was the time to
Oh,
see
yeah.
him, really.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. By the way, how's the newlywed, Richie?
No, I just wanted to say though, I have an album behind me of Sinatra, unsigned. I never met him. I went to Vegas, he never appeared there. And I went to Jilly's. Not only wasn't he there, even Jilly wasn't there.
I think Julie.
Well, that
was
sounds
there.
like a good story, Rich.
What about? No,
Some cousins, yeah.
God.
no.
Speaking of cousins, you all should say a silent prayer. Keep in mind, my cousin Marietta, Joe could probably tell you more. She's going to have an operation next week to install a watchman, right, Joe? Is that the term?
Yeah, we were with Willie and Marietta, actually Marietta, almost all of yesterday. She had just returned from having an episode at the hospital, and they're going to install a what they call a watchman, what you said, Rich. It's something to control AFib condition. But she's okay. I mean, she's frail from the episode, but this will take care of the problem, and they're she'll survive it. I mean, she's a tough cookie. But we were with them all day yesterday, helping them move into their new condo. Of course, they had sold the house and moved downsized into a condo. So we were with them all day long, just helping getting the house organized. And yeah, next week she'll go in for the procedure, and then she'll be fine. And then they're looking forward to leaving January 1 to get out to Hawaii and be in the sun and palm trees for 6 months or so.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you how tough she is. In the Army, they used to have the term Army Strong. It isn't even half. They should change it to Marietta Strong. Anyway.
She's
Yeah,
been through a lot.
She's back from the hospital a day, and we're there helping out, just getting things organized. And we couldn't even get her to sit down. She would say, well, I need this done. I said, okay, Mary, just sit down. Tell us what you need done. We'll take care of it. You turn around, pop. She's up out of the chair, running around the place as fast as she could, getting involved in things that she's not supposed to, like picking things up. And it was amazing how mentally strong she is, even though she was beat up pretty bad at the hospital just for a couple of days. But
78.
She's gonna be fine.
78, and when did she stop working? Maybe last month, or is she still working?
Well, no, she still does.
Part-time.
She still does the Caspari like a kind of consulting basis. So she spends 2-3 hours a day on the computer doing whatever she does for Caspari, and she'll never give that up because she loves it. She complains about it, of course, that it's too much time. I can't do this any longer, but she loves it. I mean, she'll never give it up.
Monsignor, you have to know. You have to know, considering that your mother was Italian, that we are blessed women in the world, starting with our mothers, our grandmothers, and all the way through. Every single one of us. I know that. I know that because I've known it for spouses.
Well, I have to say, my mother was not a good cook, and I grew up in Carmel, New York. I grew up in Carmel, New York, without any real association with the Italian culture that she grew up in Bathgate Avenue. So our visits to her mother, my grandmother, were very strange to me, my sister and I. My grandmother never spoke English, and I remember approaching the apartment. She lived on the 3rd floor, and she'd be hanging out the window watching for us.
Uh-huh.
Which I grew to understand was sort of a typical kind of thing to do, but to me as a youngster, it was all very strange. I would sit there on this plastic furniture with my sister and eat this strange food that my grandmother would make, and didn't have an appreciation till well into my adulthood because my mother was just not your typical, Italian. So I reunited with my genetic code when I became pastor at St. Patrick's Old Cathedral.
Monsignor, you made up for it.
I made up for it. Yeah. It's all there in the genes. Comes out in a couple of generations later.
I think we probably all could tell stories about our mothers, you know, that, of how they were, how strong they were, what, you know, what they did. And, you know, we looked at them and if you needed something, it was, it was kind of, it was done. I mean, my mother had Crohn's disease from when she was 25 years old until she died at 77, which they never expected her to live that long. As a matter of fact, she also survived throat cancer and then went back to smoking. She used to smoke like crazy.
Jesus.
So one time I went to talked to her doctor. I said, this is when she was a little older, like around 60.
You finished? You took care of her?
You got to tell her to stop smoking, you know? John, he said, let me tell you something. He said, he said, I showed x-rays of your mother's intestines to the doctors to see what they think. And usually the question is, when did she die? He said, John, he said, she's a miracle. He said, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to tell her to stop doing anything. He said, she seems to manage, you know, okay, considering the, you know, this disease, which was very debilitating, but it never stopped her. And cooking, forget it. It was, you know, unbelievable. That's what she wanted to do. But I think, you know, that kind of children of immigrants or the immigrants, they had to be strong. You know, they just had to be strong.
Yeah.
Just to survive, yeah.
Just to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Call from Alhambra PA.
Well, so, you know, I'm interested in like the cultural difference between your grandparents and your parents. Like how many of your grandparents were, you know, Italian speaking or non-English speaking? And was there a real difference between their culture and their way of life and your parents? It was starkly in mine.
Very different. Very, very different.
My mother spoke Italian, but
Told
I
you.
never heard it unless she was on the phone
I knew
with
what I
her
was.
mother.
He's the best.
I never heard the Italian language growing up. But then again, my grandmother never spoke
Almost.
English.
He fixed it. I had to go for a part. See?
Monsignor, my
They don't know.
Monsignor, my father's mother and father lived on Lafayette Street, but to them they were still in Italy.
Yeah,
Where my mother and father were living in New York
right.
on Lafayette Street, but my grandmother and grandfather didn't speak English. They
Right.
thought they were still in Italy, but in New York,
Yes. Correct.
it was completely different.
That was my grandmother. She could have been in
Completely
Italy.
different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My grandfather never spoke English. My grandmother did. She spoke very, very well, but my grandfather never learned to speak English, and he was here from when he was 12.
What did he do for a living?
He
What
was
did
a
they do?
baker. He had the bakery. We had the bakery.
Okay.
And he was the baker. He stayed at the ovens and he baked. That was
Right.
that
Didn't
was.
have to speak English.
He
Right?
didn't have to. He never said too much at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a story about Rosetta in Meeples in Rosetta, Pennsylvania, which is named after Rosetta, Italy, and how, because of the lifestyle, even in the United States, which mimicked to a great degree that of the lifestyle in Rosetta, Italy, the importance of the church, neighborliness, everybody knowing one another,
Right. Right.
food they ate,
Right.
Right.
maybe a little modification. And because of that, statistically off the chart, they lived longer, or rather they lived without being subject to many of the heart ailments that other Americans had. So it's in Meatballs and Stickballs. An interesting story that
You want to put all that stuff in?
the guy that wrote Blank,
Okay. I didn't hear that.
Clean
Okay, good.
yeah, he had it in his book too. So yeah, and look at all of us. You know, we're up there. You know, we're still.
I bet you a lot of us have survived.
We have, yeah.
And our grandparents. If you
You
think-
know, but families help families.
I don't know about
I
me.
remember after my mother passed away, my sister needed to get some shots every week. And John, your mother used to administer the shots.
Oh, yeah. P12s.
Yeah, all the time. So, there was always a helping hand out there.
Yeah. My mother she used to give them to your sister too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
I remember that very well.
Yeah.
Of course, now the people in Rosetta, Pennsylvania started to eat steaks and this and that and everything else and live just like all other Americans. And now the statistics are not the same.
So how many of you guys, your grandparents were immigrants from Italy? Is everybody that
Yes.
third generation?
Oh, yeah, grandpa.
Yes.
No,
No.
my grandmother was born in the States.
Okay.
You're unusual. It's unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was very unusual.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
How about your grandfather?
Who was the governor that ran against FDR?
Oh.
Anybody remember?
Al Smith?
Al
Smith.
Smith, right.
Al Smith.
He was a neighbor of my grandmother's.
From the 4th Ward, probably.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was raised on James Street.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he was a parishioner at St. James Church. The family. Smiths.
I would guess, yeah, I think I would guess.
Yeah.
Although I always suspected that my grandmother was from Genoa, and I suspected that she was a Marano. So they had to have Jewish blood in them.
Ah.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, right.
I always
Explains a lot.
suspected that my father read too quickly. No Italians read that fast.
It's true.